Alright, so next up we have here two solid state drives I picked up. I'm still going to keep the original storage in my computer, however, I'm going to add to it. Currently I have 1.5 terabytes worth of storage, a 500 gig Samsung 840 Evo solid state drive, and two Seagate 500 gig mechanical hard drives set up in RAID. So it does pretty decent. Load times are good. The solid state drive is definitely a lot faster than even the RAID drives are. Sustained speed writes on there right now for the read and writes about 500 megabits a second if it's having a really good day. So that's with the 840 Evo. Now these, what I picked up two different drives. First off, I have the 970 Evo Plus. They're both NVMe M.2 2280 drives. What that is that's a newer form factor of a drive. Instead of actually having a casing, this plugs straight into the main board. And if you see the picture here, you'll see the gold fingers there. It'll actually plug right straight into the main board. Gives it a direct connection, so you're not having any cables. Less chances of any issues. It's faster. It does run warmer though, so most times you have to have a type of heat spreader on it, and luckily the mainboard I have did come with those heat spreaders. First we'll talk about this 970 Evo Plus. This one's made by Samsung. It's an MLC type memory, which is multi-level cell. There's several different types you can get. There's MLC, TLC, QLC. It just depends on how that memory is built. MLC tends to be pretty quick. It doesn't have the durability of, let's say, QLC, but it's not that far off. And when I explain to you what the durability is on this one here, it's still not anything that I'm probably ever going to reach. This one has up to 3,500 sequential read and 3,200 sequential write. Now this does have a stipulation on it. After the sequential region, it's rated at 900 megabits per second on the write speed. So it's a little slower once you get to a certain area of it. But overall, the read-write speed is fantastic. It's got really good ratings on it. It carries a 5-year warranty. It also has 300 terabytes written before failure. So, I mean, this thing has got a massive amount of rewrite on it. So, the common person isn't going to come anywhere close to that. Not unless you're doing a ton of video editing or downloading files and deleting them, downloading, deleting. I mean, on the solid state drive that I have, I believe I'm up to 85 terabytes written, which isn't even close to its failure yet. And that thing I've had for 4 years now. So, I mean, there's no chance I'll probably ever reach this read-write failure rate on this thing. It also has 1.5 million hours mean time before failure. So, I mean, if you figure out 1.5 million hours, that's more than anybody's probably ever going to keep the drive, or let alone the computer. These things will probably be obsolete before that 50 million or 1.5 million hours is ever reached. Now on the Intel one, I'm going to be using this one here for my, the Samsung one I'm going to be using for my operating system, just because of how fast the drive is. I want a really quick boot into Windows. I may choose certain programs to load on here, especially like MMOs, just because I need that faster loading time, especially when you're switching regions. Standard games, backup files, I'm going to be loading a lot of them to this Intel SSD. The reason I'm doing that is it's a slower drive. It is a QLC, so it's that quad level cell memory, so it's got a little bit longer life to it, but it's not as fast. So it's a trade-off that you have. But this one's a 2 terabyte module. So I mean, this is another 2.5 terabytes total that I'm going to be putting into this computer, for a total of 4 terabytes. So I mean, that should get me for a little while. It's taken me a while to fill up the drives that I do have, but they are getting full. So I figured this will help alleviate some of that. I want to eventually get away from those mechanical drives, but I like to have them, just because they're reliable. They do pretty good. Running them in RAID. Standard, if they were by themselves, they're not near as fast. But this one here, Intel, again, it's a 2 terabyte, NVMe M.2 2280. Both of these are PCI Express 3.0 times 4 slots. So they are very fast access on these. This one here, comparatively, this was 3,500 megabits per second read. This is only 1,800. This was 3,200 megabits per second write. Again, this one's 1,800. So it's about half the speed, but it's 4 times the storage. So I mean, that's not a bad trade-off on it. Also carries a 5-year warranty, 1.6 million hours mean time before failure, so 0.1 more million hours, so 100,000 hours more than what the other drive was. And this one is 400 terabytes written before failure. So you got 100 more terabytes than the 300. So that's the trade-off that you have, is you have a longer life to it. It also uses less energy, but you trade off some speed. Now still, compared to even that solid state drive that I have now that is really fast at booting, both of these are way, way faster. I mean, and again, this is theoretical limit. This is not guaranteed, but this one would be, comparatively speaking, about 3 times as fast, whereas this one here is going to be, almost 7 times as fast. Again, that's theoretical. I know I've seen a lot of reviews of these online, and I've seen people getting right up close to that, but it just depends on what they've loaded on there and how full that memory gets. So it just depends, but I'm looking forward to it. I think those are both going to be really cool. Let me show you these drives. What's amazing is if you've ever seen a hard drive before, you know how kind of large and clunky they were. And when they got to the solid state drives, they really cut down the size of them. They were a lot thinner. I mean, they were about the size of a laptop drive. And now with these M.2 drives, as you can see, this thing is about the size of my finger. So I mean, it's pretty tiny. Go ahead and open that up there. Okay, so this is the Samsung drive. As you can see, it is small. You can see the memory modules on there. The back, pretty ordinary, but there's that new interface there. That's that PCI Express 3.0 times 4 interface. I mean, overall, these are really cool looking memory. They literally just plug in, you seat them down, and on the end right here is a spot for a screw to hold it down. When I go to install those in the actual motherboard, I will show that. Now, same thing with the Intel one here. Again, it's pretty unremarkable. It's the same exact thing. It's just Intel branded. One thing I will say about the Intel one here is it comes in some cheaper packaging. Now, it's not quite as nice. That Samsung was nice plastic, whereas, as you can see, this Intel is just cardboard. Trying to get it out is a little more difficult. Cardboard likes to stick, and there it goes sliding out of this cheap cardboard holder. Again, it's really unremarkable, pretty standard. It just carries the specs on there. Again, 3.3 volt rating on there, 1.77 amps. This Samsung. See if it's got the 3.3 volts as well. So you can see they're both rated at 3.3 volts. Now looking online, it did say that this Intel one supposedly uses quite a bit less energy than the Samsung, but that's one of those things I'll kind of believe it when I see it. When you're talking about, I believe it was saying it was like, I think it was like 5.5 watts or something like that during use, and like half a watt for standby. So I mean, it's negligible. It's very, very, very little. So I'm not too concerned about that with a 1,000 watt power supply. I should have pretty much overkill on that. So that takes care of the NVMe drives.